Hey Mama, welcome back to the Thrive Mama podcast. I'm Martina, certified nutrition consultant and holistic health coach, and a mama of two, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm here to help busy moms unlock their energy, balance their hormones, and break out of burnout using nutrition as a foundation. In this podcast, we will dive into actionable strategies on nutrition, nervous system healing, and aligning with our cycles, all with a healthy dose of relatable motherhood thrown in so that you can move past surviving to actually thrive in motherhood. Let's do this. All right, Mama, today I have a special treat for you. I got to sit down with Morgan Lewis, owner of Three Pillars Wellness, and dive into all things gut health and holistic wellness. Morgan helps women who are experiencing IBS, SIBO, and digestive issues heal for good. As a certified nutrition consultant, she utilizes diagnostic testing, holistic nutrition, and lifestyle changes to empower her clients. She believes in supportive care, forming a team with her clients, accelerating them along the way to make steps towards vitality. This conversation was so juicy. We got so specific on what actions we can start taking today to start making a difference in our gut health and our overall wellness. And in this episode, we dive deep into how stress and energy and your gut are all connected. And Morgan makes a really good case for why everybody should be building awareness around their gut health, even if you don't have any stomach symptoms and you think your stomach is fine. The gut expands so far beyond that, and I'm so honored to share this conversation with you today. So let's dive in. Morgan, I'm so excited to be here with you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to chat.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I would love to just hear a little bit about who you are and what your work is in the world. And if you want to share anything about how you got into this work, I'm always so interested to hear everyone's journeys in.
Yes, absolutely. So I started my gut health, holistic healing journey back when I was a teenager. In high school, I struggled a lot with GI issues and no one could really figure out what it was. Kind of at that point was still doing conventional medicine. Really was just dismissed. And my mom decided to take me to a nutritionist. And thinking back now, she was very ahead of her time. This was maybe 2010. And she was already talking about toxins and chemicals and, eating real foods and all of those things. But that didn't really heal my issues. It definitely helped, but it did not really get me to that 100% of healing. And at that point, saw some success with dietary changes, felt a little bit better, started eating, a bit healthier, more plants, more greens, more protein, and went off to college not really thinking about much. And fast forward my junior year, I started suffering from debilitating stomach aches to the point where I couldn't really stand up. And again, no one could figure out what they were from. I had seen more doctors. I went to, even endocrinologists because I was thinking maybe it was something else with my hormones, really just exhausting every alley. And at that time I was living in LA, which, a lot of holistic practitioners were based in Colorado or California, excuse me. And now obviously there are more across the US, but that was really kind of the precipice. And I met this amazing practitioner who was very into integrative holistic medicine, and she ran all of these tests I had never done: stool tests, food sensitivity testing, hormone testing, pretty much everything to get a pulse check of what was going on in my body. And turns out I was a mess. My gut was a mess. I had parasites, H. pylori. I was running hypothyroid. My neurotransmitters were all out of whack. And because of this, I had severe leaky gut, all these gut issues, which led to that and then set the stage for intense food sensitivities. And the food that I was reacting to the most were eggs. And I was eating eggs probably 2 to 3 times a day because at that point, it was protein and egg white powders and all these things. And I was seriously eating eggs for at least 2, if not 3 of my meals. I was busy doing an internship and it was just super easy to make eggs for dinner. And I had this aha moment of, wow, like, how did I get here? How do I fix this? And ultimately, that was kind of the starting point for me and led me to realize the power of supplements and kind of changing my diet, healing my gut. Today I can obviously tolerate eggs. I've fixed my leaky gut. I've reversed my food sensitivities. And, I actually was able to reverse Hashimoto's as well. I had really high antibodies at that point as well. So it really just solidified my foundation of this is something that I need to share with people because I, felt the depths of that, feeling hopeless and not being heard and not knowing what to do. And it was so crazy that it all boiled down to my gut. And that was really where it started. And so I went back to school. I went to Bowman College, got my technical title of holistic nutrition consultant. And then I went to secondary schooling through Restorative Wellness Solutions, which is where I was able to learn how to order testing. So I can now integrate that stool testing, food sensitivity testing, hormone panels for both men, women, and also blood work. And so with all of those skills, I'm really able to kind of do a full intake with my clients now of, helping them heal. And it's been really, really awesome.
Can you bring us back into that time of your life where you're seeking out answers, you're really deep in the imbalances? What were you feeling day to day? Like, how were you feeling in your body? What was coming up for you symptom wise? How were you feeling emotionally? Like, just give us a sense of where
Yeah.
you were at before you stumbled across this
Mhm.
practitioner that changed everything.
Yeah, it was bleak, honestly. I had felt like my body was broken, if I'm going to be completely transparent, because at that point in time, I had gone to so many people and tried so many different things that I was like, maybe this is just how I'm going to live. My gut health had also affected how I physically looked. I was really swollen. My face was really round. I had excess inflammation and weight. I was incredibly constipated, and I remember going to acupuncture to have bowel movements, and like I still wasn't going to the bathroom. And anyone who suffers from constipation will know how just like bogged down it makes you feel. My skin was a mess. I had acne. My hair was thinning. I lost probably half my hair of hair on my head at that point. I had to cut it really, really short. So I just didn't feel like myself. And also, like the last thing too, I remember was really intense anxiety. It kind of felt like I couldn't control my moods. I was super down all the time. I don't really know if that was my gut and also just the headspace I was in too, because when you're sick, you just don't feel well. And so it really was full body. Everything you could think of was something I definitely had experienced. And then like random symptoms, right? Like the bumps on the back of your arm and just those random things you don't really think are related to gut health. But then when you heal, you're like, oh, wait, I forgot. I don't have that anymore. Little things like that too.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling of resignation, like maybe there's no way out and this is just normal kind of thing. And it's really helpful to hear from people who've been through the journey and can show us that we don't have to settle for feeling that way. And I'm glad you brought up the anxiety because I think, in my programs where I really support moms with energy and burnout and anxiety and stress from a nutrition perspective, gut is a huge piece of that conversation. And it's something I really want to explore with you today. How some of these gut symptoms that maybe we're not even conscious of are impacting our mental and emotional health. And it felt like you really experienced that firsthand in your journey.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of us don't really realize that there is that gut brain connection, and I know that's something we wanted to talk about, so I can give a little intro to it. But, when you have anxiety or when you have these emotions, you feel it in your gut, right? It's like the butterflies, the stomach in a knot, on a roller coaster, right? Your stomach drops. Like our gut is so intricately connected to every part of our body. And there actually is a nerve that connects our brain to a bunch of different organs and systems in our body, but also our gut, and it's called the vagus nerve. And this is this bi-directional communication between our gut and our brain. And it's so incredibly important to realize that, you know, you are what you eat, but you are what you absorb. And every time we eat and every time we fuel our body, be it nutrients or supplements, but also like energy too, right? It affects our gut. And then in turn, it affects our brain. I always show this picture to my clients of the brain like signaling to the gut the neurotransmitters, the motility, and then the gut's kind of sending back to the brain the mood and serotonin and all these other things that regulate our energy and our mood. And it's very real. A lot of my clients, when they come to me, they start super anxious or maybe depressed or just feeling off. They're like, I just don't know when this happened, but I don't feel like myself. And when I tell them, I'm like, this makes complete sense after we get their stool test back. I'm like, you're lacking XYZ bacteria, right? That regulates your butyrate, which regulates your short chain fatty acids, which regulates your neurotransmitters. Like it all makes sense. And so if anyone is experiencing that, I would say the first place to work is always the gut.
Mm. Yeah. It's a really powerful place to start. And I want to get into that deeper with you today. I think there's so much we can explore with that. I would love to hear first though. I just feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there, some misconceptions around just gut health in general and what it looks like and what it doesn't look like. And I'm curious about some of the biggest like myths that you run across or things that you would love to just set the record straight on right away. What are some things you think people are getting wrong here?
Yeah. I think the first one is while symptoms might be common, they're not normal. Like,
Mhm.
I think in today's age, especially with the rise of some of these other social media apps and TikTok and people being able to share their experience and talk more authentic, which is amazing, don't get me wrong, there's this level of normalizing things. So, for example, like I see a lot of stuff like hot girls have IBS, or, it's normal to feel all these PMS things before your cycle. And as women, like we go through so many different hormonal changes and different stages of life, right? You're working with postpartum, like that is a whole different ballgame in itself. But just because a symptom is common, it does not mean it's normal. Like we are not meant to live in pain. We are not meant to be doubled down from our cycle. We are not meant to have super long or irregular periods. We're not meant to be bloated after every single thing we eat, right? Like these are might be common in today's day and age, but they are not normal. And so with that, I just want to encourage people to honor your symptoms. And if you feel like something is wrong, it is worth investigating, right? Like that is how our body communicates. It communicates through symptoms. So just first and foremost, like I like to lay that out. With that, I think a lot of times people don't realize that even if you're not experiencing gut symptoms, and if you have other symptoms like hormonal imbalances or headaches or skin issues, right? They don't seem like they're connected to the gut, but they are.
Okay, wait, can you say that again? Because this is so
Yes.
important. Just say
Yeah.
that one more time.
So if you are experiencing other symptoms that don't outright feel like gut dysfunction, so for example, common ones I see, fatigue, headaches, hormone issues, skin issues, our modern medicine has made us to believe like, okay, you have a skin issue, you go to the derm. You have a hormone issue, you go to the gynecologist. Our body is connected, right? It's not these broken up systems. And that makes sense for providers who specialize. But when you are healing, 9 out of 10 times it stems from the gut, right? Like, so for example, if you have acne, it means that there's dysbiosis, potential yeast, potential fungal overgrowth, parasites, maybe something going on that is causing that symptom to show up in your skin. If you have hormone issues, it means that you're probably not getting the right nutrients, you're not detoxing your hormones, you're not clearing your hormones through stool, right? We clear estrogen through pooping. So these are just examples of how symptoms that might not outright scream gut are actually connected to your gut. And I posted something the other day on my Instagram, which we'll share that for you, for the listeners if they want to see it. I had a client who came to me and she didn't even really tell me about her cycles when we first did intake. She was like, yeah, I'm regular, like, I don't have crazy PMS. And she sent me a picture because she tracks her cycle every month. And before we started working together, her cycle swung from 26 days to 38 days. And for people who are cycling, not on birth control, right? Because birth control is a forced bleed, it's not a true cycle. If you are cycling, a healthy cycle is 28 to, let's call it 31 days, right? Her cycle, after working with me, we just did 6 months of gut healing, okay? Nothing else. Her cycle went from 27 to average of 32, netting it to a 30-day average cycle. Like, that's crazy to me
Yeah.
that just working gut, supporting detox, getting nutrients in, we were able to regulate her cycle without even focusing on it, right? So
Yeah.
that's just one example of the power in healing the gut.
And I think sometimes it can be it can feel disconnected. So we don't always feel invested in, let me really dive into my gut health because our stomach feels fine, right? We're not experiencing bloating or IBS symptoms. And what you just really illuminated so beautifully is it's all connected. And if you are seeking help for anxiety, for burnout, for exhaustion, for hormonal issues, for skin issues, your gut is a key part of that puzzle. And I'm really glad that you brought that up because I think we think of the gut and we just think of stomach symptoms, and it's so much more than that.
Absolutely. It's so much more than that. And the other element of it too is that you can make drastic changes with your gut health in a short period of time. Like I know there's a lot of information out there and it seems really overwhelming, which hopefully we can destigmatize that today. But I never want people to listen to this and feel like it's hopeless because there's actually so much you can do and free medicine that you can actually integrate. And I'm sure you teach your clients about this as well. Like there's so much you can do that if you were to change your diet or integrate other things, like you can start seeing results in 2 to 3 days.
Mhm.
And I've seen it with myself too, right? We're human. I fall off sometimes. I start eating more processed foods. I start maybe having a Diet Coke. That's my vice. And, I'm like, oh, I don't feel great. I didn't sleep great. I'm really tired. And then I turn it around and like 2 days later, I'm like, oh my God, I'm always blown away at how powerful nutrition is. And, feeding my gut the right things that it needs to focus and function optimally.
Yeah, and how quickly the body can heal. It's self-healing all the time. Yeah. Okay, I want to get into this free medicine, but are there any other myths you want to set the record straight on before we move on from that?
Yes, a few other ones. So I think a big element, we're on social media, and that's kind of what I'm just thinking about right now is, we're sold something every time we look on that app. Supplement that can out supplement a bad diet, right? A supplement is a supplement. It's going to supplement your nutrition, and it's great to use targeted supplementation. But if you're eating a poor diet, there's no supplement that's going to fix that, right? You can't out supplement a bad diet. The other thing too is I really don't love cleanses. I don't love juice cleanses. I don't love quick gimmicky detoxes. They can help you feel good for maybe a day or two, but those are not sustainable lifestyle changes. So I would say save your money. And then food sensitivities are a huge area where there's a lot of misinformation. I think a lot of people blame food sensitivities as a root cause, but I would argue that we need to ask one step deeper of why did you get to these food sensitivities in the first place, right? So in my example, I had this severe leaky gut because I was not taking care of my body. I was eating poorly. I was highly stressed. I was living in a moldy home. Like I had all these things working against me. And that ultimately set the cascade for leaky gut to then set the stage to allow my body to create those food sensitivities. But the food sensitivities were not the root cause. And so a lot of times I would advise people not to do those gimmicky food sensitivity testings as like their route to heal because it then sets you up. I like to call it the hamster wheel of healing, right? You test food sensitivities, you pull the foods out, you add different ones in its place, and then all of a sudden the oatmeal that you were switching the eggs for, you start reacting to a month later because it's just swapping one to one. You're not actually healing the larger issue that's under it.
Mhm. Yeah, and if you had only taken out eggs and used that as your treatment, maybe it would have been less of a load for a while, but your leaky gut still would have been reacting to other
Exactly.
things you were eating.
Exactly. Like
That's so
maybe 15% of my symptoms would have gotten better, but it never would have gotten me to 100.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Okay, great. So glad the record's straight on these things. And let's talk about some of this free medicine that you mentioned. I'm here for it. So, someone wants to start healing in some way and accessing without buying extra products, without having to dish out money. What are the free medicine around us that can heal us?
Nature,
Mm.
so healing. I was reading this book the other day, and I do want to shout this out because I imagine if people are on this podcast, they're interested in learning. There's a book called Good Energy by Casey Means. She's a doctor. It's a
This
fabulous,
just
fabulous.
came across my path. I added it to my
Oh my
to be
God,
read list. I love
it's
when the universe does
amazing.
that. Yeah.
It's amazing. And so she talks about a really interesting concept of how modern life has taken away extremes, right? So like extreme temperatures, we all kind of live in homes with air conditioning and we're at the same temperature all the time. And artificial light. And I think that was a huge one that people don't really realize. Like artificial light, she says, has been around for 0.04% of our evolution as humans, less than 1%. Okay. And this is a huge thing I see because our circadian rhythms are really thrown. And then that throws our digestive function, that throws our sleep, our melatonin. And, a lot of people think of melatonin as just a sleep hormone. It's not. It supports detox. It supports hormone production. It is so much more than just sleep. But the thing about this is that we aren't getting outside. Like we work from home more. People wake up, they make their breakfast, they sit down at the desk, right? It's like we're kind of living in this box. And so getting outside, getting in nature, getting light on your eyes, that is free medicine, right? So I love this tip of maybe trying to get out for 5 to 10 minutes the first hour of waking up, even if that's walking to the gym for 5 minutes. Don't wear sunglasses, right? Look up at the sky, get that really good natural light and the big flux that you're not getting when you're in the home. That's a huge one. The second is like if you live near water, like you can start to use that as a way to disconnect or cold plunge in the winter, things like that, to add some of these biohacking trends that people love. And then when you're eating, I think really dialing in nutrition, right? We're all going to the grocery store, but it's really looking at the labels. It's looking at what you're putting in your cart. And actually, I would say that if you are buying real foods or shopping locally, I love to shout out farmers markets when you can because less transit time, more nutrient availability. Your dollar is probably going to go much further than buying packaged goods that are way more expensive because they've got the brand name, all of that goes into packaged goods. Like if you really shop the perimeters of your store and focus on the real fruits and veg, the proteins, the dairy, like you are going to save money and you are going to be so much better off by feeding your body real foods. It's going to respond so much better. It's all information for us, right? I think in her book she says we eat around 2 to 3 pounds of food per day, which is really crazy when you think about that. And it always blows my mind that people don't realize you are putting 3 pounds of external substance in your body. Of course, it has, the power to either support or completely derail your health. Like, where have we gone wrong that people don't believe the food is connected to how we feel? Because it is arguably one of the most important things.
Okay, so good. So more sunshine, especially in the morning, water exposure, also so good for the nervous system. And then shopping the perimeter, whole food based foods, which doesn't have to cost more. In fact, sometimes will save you money because you're not buying the convenience package.
Exactly. Like a sweet potato, for example, if you were to buy that, it's what, like $1 for a normal sized, medium sized sweet potato compared to a bag of chips, that's $5.
Yeah.
Right. So
beautiful. Okay, that's so helpful. So let's dig into the stress connection here. A lot of folks that I work with and that are in my beautiful community are really working on healing the nervous system. And I would love to hear from you. What does the gut have to do with this? And how can we really utilize gut healing to actually help our nervous system heal?
Yeah. Well, first, I just want to share a little story. This was my biggest issue. And for years, I was running on fight or flight. So that sympathetic nervous system, I was totally in that zone. I actually remember I went to a doctor maybe 2021, and she looked at me and she was like, "Do you feel like you can never relax?" I'm like, "No, what are you talking about? I go to yoga, I do breath work. Like, no, like I'm so relaxed." Literally, like she probably knew that I was not by asking me that question, right? But this really is the number one thing I would say outside of blood sugar balance, and we can get into it because they kind of tie in together, I would say. But regulating your nervous system is the key to healing because your body cannot heal in a stressed environment. It is just not physically possible. When we are revved up and in this fight or flight mode, we are on edge. We are looking for survival. Our digestive function is shut down. Like we really are in this mode of stress. And when you are trying to heal your gut, being in fight or flight, they can't be used in the same sentence. It's just not possible. And so the biggest thing I like to show my clients is that when you are in that sympathetic dominant stressed mode, your gut function completely shuts off. So even if you're eating those beautiful meal, but you're eating while scrolling on your phone or reading a stressful email from your boss, you're not going to absorb that food as well as you could have unless you were, if you're on the flip side, we're sitting in a really calm state. And so even just down to nutrient absorption, which is the fuel for our cells, is dictated by your nervous system. But with that being said, right, like it is totally connected. It really sets the stage for inflammation. It sets the stage for cell signaling. It sets the stage for healing. So it really is all encompassing. But I think just saying like heal your nervous system, it's really confusing for people. I'm sure you've seen that, right? You don't really understand what that means. And so I like to share that it's basically taking you out of that revved up hypervigilant state into a calm present mode. That can look like a lot of different things for people, right? I found that through hypnosis, that for me was the cherry on top that made everything like the last piece of the puzzle. It made it all connect for me. But breath work is a great option. That cold plunge or a sauna, right? Some people feel really zen when they're doing that type of detox work. Going outside on a walk without your phone is huge. Grounding in nature, like your feet on the grass and just being present. That's another good one. Being with people who fill your cup, right? And just like laughing and finding joy. That also could be it too. So it doesn't need to be this big thing that feels super confusing or out of reach, because I think a lot of times it is a confusing and trendy statement in a way. But I really think it's those moments where you can feel totally at peace and present. That's what's going to help you tap back into that nervous system regulation and not rushing. That's a huge one. I'm sure you see that with the mama community. They're so busy. They've got the kids, maybe some are nursing, they're on this schedule, and maybe they're dealing with other kids while there's a newborn, right? There's so much going on. And it's finding out how you can actually carve time out for yourself so you don't feel like you're playing catch up all day, because you're never going to be able to be present if you're doing that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So good. You are speaking my language. Hey there, mama. Quick question. Are you feeling drained, overwhelmed, or just ready for more actionable strategies for nourishing yourself in motherhood? Well, I've got a special gift for you. I am opening the waitlist for my Thrive Mama group coaching program. And when you join the priority waitlist, I am gifting you 5 free lessons straight from inside the program itself, delivered right to your inbox. So these 5 lessons are packed with simple, actionable strategies to help you transform the way that you think about energy and stress and focus on the highest impact areas to start unlocking more energy, balancing your blood sugar, balancing your hormones, and healing your nervous system. And there are free lessons in here on exactly how energy and stress are connected, how food plays a role into all of this, how to know if you're actually eating enough food, which, hint, hint, you're probably not, and how to snack in a way that actually supports your energy instead of draining you more. And the best part is you will also get early access to Thrive Mama when the doors open, and there'll be a special waitlist discount for you. Plus, you get a sneak peek into the transformation and the resources that would be waiting for you inside of Thrive Mama. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link below the show notes, join the priority waitlist, and start your thriving era today. What I really hear from you right now is, unless we address the nervous system, the self-healing mechanisms in the gut are not going to be able to move forward, and we're going to be stuck in this imbalanced state.
Exactly.
Do you find that when we address the gut, we also heal does this go both ways? Can we heal the nervous system by addressing the gut, or where do you see the gut actually supporting the stress response?
That's a great question. And I'm not sure, but here's what I think. I think that when you start feeding your body better nutrients, like more dense, real foods, it has the ability to balance your blood sugar, which then can reduce anxiety, which then gives you more capacity to tap into that rest and digest mode. I think when everything's going wrong, right? And you feel out of control, you're not eating well, you're not sleeping well, how the hell could you balance your nervous system, right? So, yeah, to what you said, I think definitely. I think there's some level of it by doing some dietary lifestyle changes, they kind of set the grounds for that deeper healing that can occur. Absolutely.
Yeah. Beautiful. As you said, it's all one thing, right? Like it's all connected. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to say about stress and the nervous system?
We need to focus on it in today's world. I think, it's become a term that people just kind of roll their eyes at because it's overused, right? We're all stressed out, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know why we've normalized being so stressed out all the time. And I think in today's age, we take on a lot, right? We've got so much on our plates. I'm a business owner and I can have a to-do list that's never done, right? And so it's finding this piece of the in between where you acknowledge that you're doing as much as you can and being okay with that and kind of letting that perfectionism drop off a little bit because that also is going to keep you in that mode of just constant stressing out about what you have to be doing next. And so I think living in the present is so powerful, but the only way we can get there is to kind of take some stuff off our plate, right? And getting really real on what's actually filling our cup, what's serving us, what are the non-negotiables you need to be doing, and then what's the other stuff that you've taken on or agreed upon or believed that you should be doing that might not be serving you. And can we get rid of it? Can we decrease it? Can we offload it to a partner that can take on those tasks, right? Um, all those things I think are really beneficial too, because we need to lean on community and people that can help us, especially while we're healing. I know for women, we kind of take on a lot and we think we can do it all, but at a certain point, it's making us sick. And so I think it's knowing our boundaries and really determining what's serving us and what is just stressing us out.
Mm. I've heard it called like being a human being instead of a human doing. Like we're not meant to be a human doing. We are meant to be a human being. So being more in that state of just flow instead of productivity being the focus is really transformational.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So good. Okay, what about energy?
Mm.
What about energy? How does that play into this whole stress gut puzzle?
Yeah. So let's think about energy, right? We've all learned this potentially in biology, right? The ATP, the mitochondria. And so I love to reiterate like that is really still relevant. All of our cells are doing that. And so every time we eat, we have the ability to either support that or hinder that, right? And when we give our body these raw materials that it needs to create that ATP, create the energy, we are then in turn fueling better focus, fueling better energy, and then fueling better sleep, right? A lot of people say they want to wake up earlier to do more, but how can you do that if at the start of it you're not sleeping well, right? That's really the crux of all of it. And so I would say to get better energy, we need to focus on sleep first. And sleep is arguably one of the most important things for health, right? Like if we were to build a foundation, I would say gut health, sleep, blood sugar balancing. That's my three non-negotiables at the bottom of the pyramid. And so when you are fueling appropriately, you're supporting your gut correctly. And then your gut in turn is going to help regulate your energy better. And right with all these other things, the stress, the getting natural light, we are signaling to our body the appropriate circadian rhythm, right? At nighttime, we should go to bed. At morning, we should wake up and have more cortisol and regulate our hormones appropriately. So at the core of it, right, like we need to support our gut so then it can tell our cells to signal at the right time to give us that energy when we need it, right? There's no use of having energy at 10 p.m. at night. You should be sleeping. But that's
How
kind
many of us are like wired and doom
yeah,
scrolling, or at least, a lot of the moms listening, we tend to use that nighttime as like me time that we hoard because we have an empty cup by the end of the day because we're not taking care of ourselves. So then we're staying up way later than we should just because we're desperate to feel like a human. I think a lot of people in stressful jobs can relate to that pattern too. And we get
yeah.
in this wired state at 11 p.m. when we should be sleeping. And then, of course, we're going to feel it the next day.
Absolutely. And then it's a sign too, right? Your hormones and cortisol and stress response are dysregulated because if you're firing, on all cylinders at night, scrolling, seeing things, feeling like you need to buy something or getting triggered by the news, whatever's going on in today's world, right? it's like revving you up and not allowing you to actually decompress and recharge and rebuild and, let your body detox at night, which is essentially what we're doing, right? We're detoxing, we're clearing, we're having cellular autophagy, where we're cleaning up all of these things that potentially went wrong, fixing it, right? Like sleep is so important. And so I would say, a really nice thing that I've started to do is actually charge my phone outside my bedroom. And I like to put it away at 8 p.m. I sometimes go to 8:30, maybe 9 if I'm just doing something for work and I can't get to it. But it's been profound because I wake up and I brush my teeth and then I've already had 5 to 10 minutes of not being on my phone. Whereas if it's right next to your nightstand, you're already starting to flood that adrenaline and see the blue light, get your body revved up, get into this anxious loop in the morning, which is only setting you up for failure that day, right? So I think charging the phone out of the room is huge, huge.
Okay, I have to ask because this is always the question that follows that. Do you use a different alarm then, other than your phone? Yeah, just like an old-fashioned,
So
digital alarm clock.
no, not my favorite. We have a Bluetooth one. I think we have the Amazon like ball that you can talk to it. My husband likes it, so I decided to negotiate with him because he also agreed to sleep with his phone out of the room. So you can win some battles, you lose some, right? So we have that, but we have no phones in our room, and that for me right now is good enough. But an old school alarm clock would probably be the best option because there's no Bluetooth or EMF or things like, or any light, right? Things like that.
Yeah, but no matter what, just an encouragement that there are other options other than your phone to wake you up.
Absolutely. And I think at first it feels really weird, but now I can't even imagine sleeping with my phone next to me. Like that's crazy to me because I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah. Yeah, so good. It actually really transforms the energy, I think, of the space.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked through a few of these things. I would love to just really get clear for people. What are the things that we should be sort of aware of that could indicate that our gut needs some loving? Our gut is out of balance in some way. What are some of the signs or symptoms that you really want people to build awareness around in their own bodies?
Yeah. So gut symptoms obviously are going to speak to GI issues, right? Bloat, gas, diarrhea, constipation, heartburn. Those are kind of the big ones. Maybe blood in stool or seeing like food that's not digested in your stool or like a film. All those are kind of a sign that the gut needs some love. But outside of that, there's so many. I know I said a few at the beginning. Skin issues like acne, eczema, psoriasis, like just being itchy, maybe like athlete's foot. Those are some signs as well. Inflammation anywhere, like any form of like water weight or just general inflammation is a huge one. Fatigue, chronic or general is a big one as well. Poor sleep can tie into that too. Brain fog, forgetfulness, being lethargic is a huge one I see a lot when clients start with me. Joint pain, headaches, we mentioned earlier, nutrient deficiencies. So if you're constantly low on vitamin D or you're low on B12 or your iron panels are off, there's definitely something going on in your gut. Blood sugar. So if you feel like you can't go 2 to 3 hours in between your meal, or you feel like you're crashing after meals or super shaky before you eat your next one, huge sign. And then mood, anxiety, depression, really any mood issue could point to gut issues as well.
Yeah. What about appetite? I hear from a lot of clients this struggle of just not feeling hungry for the
Mm.
first half of the day or like struggling to eat the amount of food we really need.
Yeah.
What is the gut connection there?
So typically when I see people who are not hungry in the morning, it means they are running on stress hormones. And that is a big sign we need to really start fueling earlier, especially for moms. I see people coffee, matcha, right? Taking that caffeine on an empty stomach. And that's directly going to impact your gut health, your mood, your blood sugar for the whole day, and your cravings too, which is quite interesting. So, what I recommend is for people who feel nauseous, I'll start with something like a scoop of nut butter or maybe a half a banana with that. Or one hard boiled egg, just something that has some macros, meaning a protein, a fat, and a carb, right? Like a balanced macro. And then they will sit down later, maybe after their kids are gone or an hour later for a proper breakfast, right? That's where they're getting the 30 grams of protein, the fiber, the veggie, whatever they're adding at that meal. So they haven't done the caffeine like on that empty stomach. And then as time goes on and they start eating a little bit, they will adapt to eating a meal closer to their coffee, if not with coffee. But it's a slow integration because I used to have that as well. I was super nauseous in the morning. And for me, cashew butter was what really helped. I liked the flavor of it the best.
Great. What a good tip. Thank you. That's fabulous. What about supplements? There's a lot of gut supplements out
Mhm.
there. What are your thoughts?
I love supplements. As we said earlier, you can't out supplement a bad diet. So if you are listening and you are trying to figure out where to invest your energy first, always nutrition. But I think supplements can really help, especially today where we know that our soil is more depleted. There's more transit time with our food, right? We're not getting as much nutrients as we used to, right? I think they said something on the news about how one vitamin C today, or one orange, like the vitamin C in one orange is equivalent to like you'd have to have five of them to get the same amount of vitamin C like 15 years ago. So, we need to be eating these plant foods, but I think a multivitamin is also a really good idea for people as well, just because we know that we are undernourished in terms of nutrients and minerals in this country, especially because a lot of people don't have access to farmers markets or organic produce. And so that is something I do like to recommend for a lot of people as they are working to improve their diet. I think a multi can be great. You definitely want a good quality one. I love the one from Thorne or Pure Encapsulations. Those are great. I also love probiotics for people who are dealing with some IBS symptoms, but you really need to make sure you're using one that's correct for you. I do recommend Megaspore Biotic often for my clients, but again, that could be really strong for some people and they might not be able to tolerate. So I always say when you are doing supplements, you want to work with a professional and see what would be best for you. And then for the stress piece, I think adaptogens are awesome. I love ashwagandha. I love holy basil. Those are really nice, calming, regulating herbs that a lot of people tend to tolerate well.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, that feels really clear. And we can focus first on the foundations and not get swept up into like fancy powders and
Mhm.
blends and things. Okay,
All
great.
marketing.
Very good marketing. Yeah, but sometimes it's the simple things that make the biggest difference. I find often that's the case. Simple
hmm
things. Yeah. So if you could wave a magic wand and have everyone stop doing something that would make a difference in their gut health and overall wellness, what would you have people stop?
Oh my gosh, so many things. I think two. One would be, I think the caffeine on an empty stomach is really messing with women's cycles and hormones and stress. It's really, really detrimental to our health. And the second thing is not filtering water. I don't think people realize how many chemicals are in tap water. Everyone's water source is a bit different. So you could go to the EWG, which is the Environmental Working Group, and you could see where your water is coming from to find a correct filter for your specific contaminants. But you must be filtering your water. It is essential. I think healthy water and air is really, really important. Everything that goes in our body, our liver has to detox, and it's just affecting our cell functioning. And so, filtering water is huge. And I often have my clients do that in the first month that we start together.
And our body's like 80% water, right? Or
Yes.
90, depends on who you are. So that makes a lot of sense. It impacts everything. Do you recommend in-home like system filters, fridge filters? Like what are your thoughts on types of filters? I know people want to know.
In-home is the gold standard. So there's a few different ones. The highest, most pure form of water filtration is called reverse osmosis. However, when you do reverse osmosis, you're stripping everything. Like you're taking the minerals and the contaminants out. So if you are doing RO, you need to add minerals back in, or else you're going to be incredibly cellularly dehydrated because we need those minerals. They're like the spark plug of the cell. If you can't afford a reverse osmosis or an in-home, I hear you because they are really expensive. I would start with the most trafficked areas. So for me, the kitchen sink is a non-negotiable. A fridge filter is not enough. And Actually, like when you heat the water with the contaminants, so say you're boiling water for pasta or rice, it actually makes some of the chemicals more radioactive. A lot of people used to think it burns them off. No, it just makes them stronger. So if you are trying to figure out where to invest your money, I like to start at the source. So I would do an under the sink water filter. That's going to really help you cover a lot of bases, and then you don't need to use your fridge filter. All the water you're washing your produce is clean. The stuff you're boiling, cooking with is clean as well. Then from there, I would go to showers. There are really awesome brands like Jolie. I have one from this brand called Sprite from Home Depot. Um, Hydro IV is another great one. Those are ones that actually have shower ones. So if you're not doing a home, you can change the head out or put like an intermediate filter. So it would go from the spout and then you would put the head of the shower on. So it would be right in the middle. Those are a great option. You swallow a lot of water when you're showering, and your skin is also our largest organ. 70% of what we put in contact with our skin has to be filtered. And so if you're showering in contaminated tap water, your body then has to detox it. So that's a huge one. And then I would move to the sinks. So that would probably be my order of operation. If you're not doing whole home, I would go kitchen, shower, and then bathroom sinks.
Perfect. Okay. Super helpful. So we're going to stop drinking unfiltered water. And
Yes.
yeah, that's going to be a big one. And then what would you have people start doing if your magic wand could have everyone start with a daily habit or something to add that would dramatically improve their gut health? What would it be?
I think the biggest thing is to make sure you're getting 30 different plant foods a week. Our gut loves diversity. Diverse nutrition is going to help with a diverse microbiome, which is then going to, in turn, have a lot of different species to help regulate our mood, our cells, our energy, fight off pathogens, all of those good things. And so, if you are eating 30 different plant foods each week, you are really setting yourself up for success. This includes vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, seeds, and spices. So I'm sure a lot of people hear 30 and they're like, oh my gosh, how do you do that? Well, turmeric, paprika, parsley, that's three already with just different herbs. And then you could buy different fruit each week. So apples, different berries, different types of citrus, different types of pears, right? There's so many different plants out there. And then getting in a lot of cruciferous veg. Cruciferous vegetables are so healing. They're really good at detoxing. They help pull heavy metals. They're really good to add bulk to have regular stools. They help support the liver. They're just amazing. So getting in at least two or three cruciferous veggies, I would say every other day or maybe one per day is huge, right? Kale, cauliflower, Brussels, broccoli, rutabaga. There's so many, but those are really, really healing.
Amazing. Okay, 30 different plant foods per week.
Yes.
Fabulous. Okay. Well, we've gotten into some really helpful tangents people can start taking action on. And I know they're going to be curious to learn more, dive in more. Can you let us know where your work is in the world, who you help, how you help them? Tell us how people can connect with you.
Yes, so I primarily work with women who are ready to ditch IBS and other GI issues like SIBO, GERD for good. I love to work with anyone. I will take males on, but most of my practice is females. So if you are a man struggling with gut issues, we can help you too. I work remotely. So I'm based in Chicago, but I see people all across the US. And I am on Instagram at 3 Pillars Wellness. There is an underscore under both of those words. So 3_pillars_wellness. I really use my platform to educate. So there's a lot of free information on my page about what products I recommend, what you can find at Costco, what supplements, things like that. And then I also have a free guide on my website. So if you are ready to start jumpstarting your gut healing, head to my website, which is tpwellness.org, and a pop-up will show, and you can download my free gut healing guide. It's got some recipes of how to use food as medicine, probiotics, links for discounts, all of that good stuff.
Amazing. And we'll include all the good links below. So check out the show notes so you can grab all those resources and connect with Morgan. Can confirm her Instagram content is so helpful. So definitely give her a follow. Well, beautiful. Morgan, is there anything we haven't talked about that you wanted to talk about that you wanted to share with folks before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is really just honoring your body, right? Listening to your symptoms. I always love to tell people that the cells in your colon actually repopulate every 3 to 5 days. And so you're never a lost cause in terms of gut health. Like if one day you wake up and you're ready to make that change, your body will respond positively. So I just like to instill this message of hope that it's not too late. Anything you do for your body is going to be really powerful. And no one's immune to bad health, right? We're all potentially, going to struggle with some health issue, be severe or, something minor in our life. And so if you can set yourself up for success now, it will pay dividends for your health down the road. And I really love to educate people on that because small changes have really profound results. And anywhere you are in your journey is a good place to start.
That's so beautiful. And I really appreciate that message. And I think along our health and wellness journey, there is a lot that just takes time. And it's really empowering to remember that the body's always healing constantly. And it's really just about giving it the tools it needs. And your work really shows people how quickly we can feel a difference. And it's really powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with you. The body wants to heal. We're not meant to be sick, right? So we just need to give it the right input so it can give us the right output.
Fabulous. Well, Morgan, thank you so much for sharing your story and your expertise with us today. It's been so fun to connect with you and can't wait to get all of these resources into the hands of everyone listening.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me.